that's the point where you offer that up to what's going on. And once I realized that that's what's going on here, my experience of the Mass changed. I mean, it wasn't like it was bad and now it was good. It was like it took another step. There's three things I want to point out about that. The Offertory is one of them. And I think the Offertory is, okay, we've just done our prayers of the faithful, right? That was like the last thing that he talked about. So the Offertory is where the gifts are brought up, okay? And I think that at that part of the Mass, I think there's a time where everybody kind of checks out for a little bit, right? The baskets are going around and people are bringing up the gifts and the priest's doing something up there and people don't know what's going on. And I know a lot of people get up and go to the bathroom and all this kind of stuff, and it's not intermission. This is actually a really critical part of the Mass, and we miss it because nobody's ever told us why it's important. But there's a lot of, remember Father Mike always says, everything means something. So when they're bringing the gifts up, that's not only bringing those gifts up, that's us bringing up our offerings as well, right? We've done the prayers of the faithful. We've prayed for a bunch of things. There's a part usually where they say, and for your own special intentions. They leave some silence and you put that in there. But this is the time where we bring our offering to the Mass as well. So we should go into every Mass with something that we want to pray for. Okay, whether it's, I'm struggling with this thing, or, my grandma's sick, or, whatever it is. That's the point where you offer that up to what's going on. And once I realized that that's what's going on here, my experience of the Mass changed. I mean, it wasn't like it was bad and now it was good. It was like it took another step. And when that happened I could tell you almost exactly when it happened. It was in September of 2018. And the reason I know that is because that's when my grandma died. My grandma had turned 100 years old in May of 2018. Now, her last 3 or 4 years, she was pretty much catatonic, and it was kind of a blessing at that point in time because she really wasn't having much of a life. But I remember after she died, I remember going to Mass. This was before the funeral. I remember going to Mass, and I remember that part of the offering came, and in my mind's eye, I felt like I was carrying my grandma up to the altar and laying her on the altar and saying, okay, God, this is my grandma. She's yours now. And I just felt like I was offering her back to him. And it was really powerful because it made me realize that that's when we were to do this. A little bit before that, maybe a year or two before that, I had a similar experience at a Steubenville conference where when we get there, we go to the Traveler's Mass, which is right at the beginning. And usually we're rushing, and we're finally there. But right at that time when the Offertory was going on and the priest was preparing the gifts, very clearly on my heart, it felt like I was being told, this is where the veil lifts. And everything mattered. So remember we talked about the veil lifting and heaven and earth collide? That moment when the priest is starting to prepare the altar and we're bringing our gifts up, think about that. We're bringing our gifts up. The priest is at the altar, which is where the action is all happening. And so that's where this all joins up and the veil lifts. And that's where heaven and earth collide. And if you remember that video I showed you a couple weeks ago, the veil removed, that's where all the angels started appearing and doing all that stuff. And where the priest in persona Christi became Jesus in there. Okay, so that's where the veil lifts. And it's a super powerful moment. But we're so worried about, I got to get $5 out of my pocket and there's all this movement. We miss it. So what I want you to do is next time the Offertory comes, really engage in that moment. Think about what you want to offer that Mass for. I find myself, if you need to drop something in collection baskets, do. I'm not saying don't offer something up, right? I give electronically so I don't have to worry about the Offertory when it comes by. But my eyes are closed during the Offertory because it's like I am engaging at that point in time, and I'm really trying to tune out all the noise that's going on around me. So I would invite you to really engage at that part of the Mass because it can be extraordinarily powerful.